Morning, Dan Halley, Sidney Resources. It's Sunday morning. Nothing like a good Sunday morning, December 21st, and I'm with Matt Daly and Steve Dobson, our world famous geologist. And I said that just because he hates when I say that. So, but one of the things we wanted to talk about this morning, and I wanted to give our shareholders and the rest of the world kind of an explanation. Us as a team, we've made a lot of predictions on when we thought we'd be in revenue, and we've had a lot of surprises, which have led to a lot of discoveries. And I really wanted to go over that. And so people can understand what we made those decisions on. We didn't just, put names in a hat and pull out and say, we're going to get gold. There's a lot of science and there's a lot of evidence and there's a lot of history that we base those kind of decisions on. So we wanted to go over that. One of the first things when really was a discovery as we were doing a lot of exploration, we discovered, and a lot of that was with Steve, we discovered stockpiles, some old mining stockpiles. And you remember that, Steve?
Yeah. Yep. Vividly.
Yeah, it was kind of a big deal. And I hear it all the time from different people. Why don't you guys use labs? We do. We use labs all the time. So we took samples from that, and I remember specifically climbing all over with buckets and going out there and getting samples out of those. We took samples from the top, from the toe, from the mid-range, and I remember carrying those buckets out because I encountered a mama bear with cubs, which kind of changes your path of how you're going to carry things out, but those kinds of things stick in your memory. And we sent those off to Florin. And Steve, do you recall, did Florin Lab indicate if there was gold and silver in those?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a fair amount, right?
That I don't remember. That's been a while ago.
Right. I mean, it was a while back, but it was enough that we decided, okay, one of the things we're going to do here is we're going to see if we can't smelt to this stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
And when we did those, when we sent those off for testing, did we think to test for platinum group metals?
I don't think at that time it was even on the radar.
Yeah, it wasn't on the radar. And why isn't that on the radar for Warren, Idaho?
The wrong rocks.
It's Warren has a, correct me if I'm wrong, but Warren has a long history of gold and silver production, correct?
Yep, that's what it is.
Not known for platinum group metals. So,
yep.
So when we did those, so one of the things that we did when we did those and we came, okay, we've got a source here that the fire assays were showing good gold and silver. We decided we put together a test mill, a pilot plant. And the reason behind that was we felt that we could start doing testing. We could confirm, the metallurgy, and everybody involved, we thought we could get into revenue that way, at least some sustainable, through testing and that whole process, to really understand not only how to mine the area, but how to recover the metal and kind of be ahead of the game. Is that fair?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
trajectory forward.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's using historical data, strategic data. And I can remember it specifically because when we got the first cons out of there, it looked like wire gold and a lot of coarse gold. And, I took pictures of it, and we've shared those pictures, and we understood how rare wire gold was and all those pieces. And I remember doing the first smelter test, and it was 800 grams of concentrates. And, I poured it, and I got the first button, and I weighed it, and it was like 132 grams. I'm thinking 132 grams of metal. This is insane. But I thought, that looks funny. It wasn't what I anticipated. And, we had a metallurgist involved, and we worked on the flux and, oxidizers, and we did what you would typically do. And then I took a magnet, and because this stuff, it should be soft gold, gold buttons, it looks a certain way. It didn't look like what it should. And it was magnetic. And I remember, calling the metallurgist at that time, and it's magnetic. Well, it can't be. It's stuck to a magnet, and, I might be a retired cop, but I know something's magnetic and not. But that really led to the discovery of platinum group metals being evolved, because we took it to Liberty Refiners and they did an XRF on it. And that's when it showed iridium and some of the pieces, and to have iridium, we understood how rare that was. We understood, a bit about it. It was certainly anticipated, but that was really, would you say that's fair? That was our first thought we would get into revenue when we started that process. And,
yep.
And, we told Sean, we think going into smelter, we're going to be able to generate some revenue, but really understand the process.
Yep.
What was your confidence level at that time?
Mine?
Yeah.
Oh, it was high.
Yeah.
I was pretty confident that we were going to nail this down fairly quickly.
Yeah. How about you, Matt? Were you confident?
Yeah, it seemed, especially before the discovery of PGMs, it seemed really cut and dry. You're talking a historic district that produced a significant amount of gold and silver through relatively rudimentary recovery processes. It seemed like a ideal situation.
It really did. And I remember Sean asking me specifically, so what's your confidence level, man? And I said 100%. 100%. And well, it didn't work. And we were all disappointed. Everybody was disappointed. We had told Sean, we're going to get into revenue. This is where we're going to go. Sean shares that. And as disappointing as that is, it's also exciting. And that's the difficult piece, I think, for people to understand, is to identify a deposit that is not only gold and silver, because that stuff didn't go away. The gold and silver, I want people to understand, it didn't go away. It's still there. It's still in the concentrates. The same thing as now we have platinum and palladium and iridium and osmium and ruthenium and rhodium. Do you ever see that stuff showing up on the tests and the XRFs, Steve?
Iridium is a constant.
Yeah.
We've came a long way on that.
Yeah. So let's kind of talk about what that is, because the pieces and again, that button that we created, which, I remember you saying it's from Pluto.
Well, it's moonscape. It has pits and barnacles. A nice gold silver button is just totally smooth.
Yeah.
And these had, it looked like the surface of the moon. It had little pits and craters, and that's.
And we made many of these. We could make them easy, and
they were fun.
I remember putting one on the concrete and of the lab where I was at. Yeah, there they are.
There's one right there.
You got to go. Yeah, right there.
See that? Yeah. And then see the tip of that? the tip of that button is gold and silver. The remainder of it is iron and a bunch of other crap. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's it. That's the deal.
And when I took that button and I put it on the concrete, I hit it with a huge sledgehammer, and I mean I smacked that thing because I wanted to see if it was malleable at all, and all I did was crack my concrete floor. It didn't even dent it. And then I went and got some diamond tip drills, and I got some titanium drill bits, and I tried to drill it in a drill press. It wouldn't even score it, wouldn't even scratch it. Tried to cut it. One of those went off to PTO labs, and they did the testing on it, and they identified everything that's in it. The only thing is they couldn't get it to dissolve in any acids. They couldn't score it. They put it in a pressure drill. They did all kinds of stuff to it. So that became difficult, and then we started processing. We started working. That's when we were also running a lab in Warren, Idaho, which has its challenges. Would you guys agree that the lab in Warren, Idaho is kind of tough?
Yeah.
Because one of the things people don't understand too is when you're working in chemistry and you're doing testing and stuff like that, carbon, the introduction of carbon can create some real problems, just from how chemicals react and acids react. And for those that aren't familiar with Warren, is at that time the only heat we had in the lab was a wood stove, and wood stoves generate carbon. And so you get carbon in the air, not to mention the difficult conditions. You start up in the morning and it's 10 degrees in the, mill building or whatever. There were a lot of challenges, and that's when we moved the lab down to Emmett. And we were still pretty confident because, we told Sean several times, we're confident we can get into revenue. And I believed it. You guys believed it. And these were things that we're telling Sean based on what normally occurs in metal recovery in Warren, Idaho. Okay, let's separate this stuff out and recover the free gold. And there's a lot of videos of us looking at cuts on the table, right? I mean, what was our saying? We got gold, right? We say it all the time. What we didn't realize is, yes, there's gold moving across the table, but the gold was contaminated. And the free gold was very difficult to recover because of what we were processing. Is that accurate?
Yeah. At the mine up in Warren, we use a pretty small gravity circuit up there. So what's happening is the gold cut comes off, but before the gold cut comes off the table, you have 2 or 3 more cuts that interfere with it. So by the time you get a concentrate, it's all your rare earths went into that, your gray cuts, which is, I don't know what that gray cut is exactly. I know some of it's silver, some of it's gold, but the actual free gold cut gets contaminated. So when you go to smelt it or even leach it, it's full of 5 or 6 or 7 different metals.
Yeah, which is a challenge, and
huge challenge.
Yeah, we've identified 8 precious metals that, and we've shared this repeatedly. 8 precious metals are in the ore, and correct me if I'm wrong. We've got, I'll try and get them all. Sometimes I get concerned about early onset of dementia just from being in Warren. So, but we got gold, we got silver, we've seen iridium constantly, we see platinum, we see palladium, we see ruthenium, rhodium, and osmium. And osmium's a pretty significant complicator. I mean, it's not easy to deal with. But one of the things I thought was really impressive, and I really want to give credit to your team, Matt and Steve and Guy, is understanding or developing the processes in our labs to identify the complexities and understand what's there. And if we could talk a little bit about those little spheres, I think the discovery that your team did, I think that was really significant because it really helped us start to understand the complexity of this ore and the encapsulation process. Is that something we could talk a little bit about?
Yeah. Marissa, out of Alaska, she told me to concentrate on the bronzite, and bronzite is a hydrothermally altered biotite. So we have a lot of cerussite, we have a lot of bronzite. She told me to zero in on that bronzite, so that's what I did. Because it should just be a straight silicate and float right off the table and be gone, but this stuff is heavy. So we isolated a bronzite cut and focused on that. And that is where your iridium is hosted, is in this bronzite. But not only that, we can separate the magnetics out of it. And when we do that, we get these little tiny granulated black spheres. And it is almost pure elemental iron. However, there's a micron of gold in each one of those, but you have to break that rind in order to get it. So that's where your elemental iron and your iridium is coming out of the bronzite.
Yeah.
And that's what we're working on right now. And I can show you what the iridium looks like.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You want me to go get that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Steve will get that. And, while Steve's doing that, one of the important pieces is that was a discovery that we made in the lab. And, we're working with a lot of labs. We work with Dr. Demena, PTOE. We have sent samples off to ALS. We've sent samples off to Florin labs. We've sent samples, back in the day. I was using Christofferson labs out of Kellogg with fire assays. We were using Hazen labs. We've used Glorfeld labs, RS Noble labs. So we're using a lot of labs.
Yeah, if you hold it right to that camera, right next to where my
Can you
finger
put a
is.
light on it?
Yeah, let me put a light on it real quick.
Okay, can you see that silver
Yeah.
on the tip?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, the green is just the silicate slag, right?
Yeah.
But that silver metal is iridium.
And for those that don't understand iridium is the rarest one of, if not the rarest element on the earth, and it's incredibly valuable. There are very few, if any, sources that are constantly producing or can have the capacity to recover iridium. And iridium has incredible significance, strategic significance for the United States. And that's one of the exciting pieces. The value of having iridium is here. It's just, we have to recover it.
I'm convinced that this is impact related.
Yeah.
I'm almost positive of it. So there's a button that we smelted, and see those bumps on there?
Yep.
That's iridium. Now,
Right.
this smooth part of it.
You got to go up a little bit, Steve.
God.
There you are. There you are.
Okay, can you see that smooth stuff?
Yeah.
That's elemental iron.
Right.
Almost 98%. It's not it's just steel.
Yeah.
And that, the only theory I can come up with is this: there had to be an impact in this district somewhere.
Right. And we've talked about that. And I think one of the things that goes to the discovery process. And Steve, I know you don't like when I give you credit for stuff.
I hate it, so don't do it.
Okay. I won't name you then. Okay. So there's a geologist that works with Matt. We'll just use his initials SD since he doesn't like to receive credit. But would you say it's fair, Steve, that you have explored Warren?
I've scratched the surface.
Right, but you don't just stay at the mine. Would you say
No,
it's fair
no.
that you've explored and you've looked at the rocks and you've looked at, miles and miles and miles of hiking and moving around the district to understand it? Is that fair?
Oh, a constant thought process trying to sort the puzzle out.
And that's why Western Frontier is a little different, because a lot of geologists that are just focused on a particular mine, they may not do that. And I think it's a huge piece, but it goes to the commitment and the different things. It's why we understand Warren. You've looked at the history. You've been to these mines. We've taken samples from these mines, and as we do that process, I think it's incredibly important for people to understand that when we first got the iridium result, and I remember this conversation incredibly well with Steve, because Steve was like, well, I don't want you to think I'm crazy, but this kind of makes sense because I've seen a lot of evidence of a potential meteor strike. And you think, what's the chance? Here we are, we're on a gold silver project in Warren, Idaho, that's known for gold and silver. And Steve talks about a meteor strike. And I'm like, this makes sense, because part of the early process that I did, being a homicide detective, I look for evidence and how to solve problems. I mean, that's really what detectives do. And I hunted down and found old engineers that have worked in Warren, old miners that have worked in Warren. I looked for transcripts and studies that were done. And Don Rolfe, who's one of the greats, and Don passed a few years back, but he was one of my early mentors. And Richard Morris was involved, and Richard, bless his soul, grumpy old guy, but every person that I talked to that had mined in Warren, worked in Warren, knew Warren inside and out, said, I'm telling you, there's something weird here. There's something unusual here. And whoever figures out what it is going to be unbelievable. Don Rolfe told me this is the most significant and special deposit he worked on in his career. And the guy had over 50 years and had been all over the world. And we see that thing. And what it is Western Frontier, for us, figured it out. There have been hundreds of geologists that have worked here. Richard Morris, decent geologist, the guy couldn't figure it out. All these different geologists they talked about, you see it in notes and you see it in old milling reports, and you see that unknown metals. They couldn't figure it out. They could figure out the coarse free gold. And we've seen samples. We've seen samples that came from deep within the rescue. And I sent those off because we thought, okay, let's understand this metal. Let's understand this deposit. This is from, actual stuff that came from a gold producing. I sent it off. The assays were insane on that concentrate. 43 ounces of gold per ton on that ore. And we thought, okay, let's see what we can do with that. Did the gold just pop right out? I mean, do you remember when what happened? You know, sulfides and all the compounding factors, the same kinds of things. And even those operators worked with labs that was their specialty, gold recovery. And Matt, do you remember what they told us those labs encountered?
On the material from the rescue?
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly, but I do remember it was very high grade material, but had a significant amount of sulfides in it. And
Yeah.
it presented a pretty serious recovery issue.
It was the same thing. So it's the same process, and it's throughout the district. I mean, we've got so many samples, and we've understood things, but this is all that. So when you've got assays that originally assays were, I mean, from Sidney Resources viewpoint, were low, you know, which is a whole different discussion in itself, because mining companies, so you guys have worked on a lot of mines. What would a mining company in the United States be excited about on grams per ton for gold?
A lot of big Western U.S., open pit mines. 1 gram per ton is a big deal. A couple grams per ton, depending on the ore body, you can make it economical underground. And so, yeah, I mean, single digit grams per ton is, you'll see a lot of big press releases from drill programs intercepting 1 or 2 grams per ton over a stretch of a few meters and stuff like that. So that's kind of the ballpark generally.
And what do we do when it's less than half an ounce per ton? This is crap. I mean, I'm not kidding you. It's like, oh man, it's less than half an ounce per ton. We have assays that go clear back from when I first started on this project, and we have assays that were done long before I got involved, and that are, half an ounce. You look at it, and we've got a lot of assays that show multi-ounce per ton, and not just, I mean, when we first sent out the gold and Dr. Demena did those tests and we were 10 ounces per ton, everybody's like, that's impossible. You can't have 10 ounce rock. There's no way. Well, the gold is in there. And we sent samples of that stuff off to RS Noble. Well, they didn't get 15 or 10 ounces per ton. They only got 15 ounces per ton, oh, gee, sorry. But that's the information that we took when we predicted revenues, because we didn't understand the process or the complexities of having all these metals and how hard it made to recover gold. And that's what I want people to understand. When Sean puts information out, and now the thing, we tell, our whole path forward is we're not making predictions anymore. We're not going to say we're going to be in revenue this time frame. We're not saying we're going to produce this. It's too difficult. Even the path for offtakes, there's a big process to it. We're working with a vendor on offtakes for rare earth materials, and there's just the process to ship this stuff. We have to get dose testing done to ship a sample, and because rare earths, are radioactive, and so there's a lot involved. And it's not like even in Boise, Idaho, it's not like I can run down to the Walgreens and say, hey, you want to dose test this package for me? You have to find vendors. You have to find the people. I mean, it's taken forever to get this stuff done because it's a challenge. And Sean catches a lot of flack, and my thing I wanted shareholders to know is we are basing our recommendations or what we thought would occur on science. We're not just up there at the bomb shelter having beers going, hey, this week let's go, we're going to get gold. That's not what happens. And it's not easy. Is it easy being in Warren, guys?
It is
It's a challenge.
it's an incredibly difficult location to work at.
You know, it's a challenge. Everything we do is a challenge. Matt, the other morning, we're talking, you're headed into Warren. You'd been out, going back in. We had a little bit of a storm come in. And the road into Warren, for people that don't understand, is 50 miles essentially from the nearest town. It's 50 miles. What did you encounter going in?
Hit about 60 fallen trees that had to cut out of the road. Not to mention there were some power lines down closer to the town we come out of, and some of these trees were, I mean, 24 inches across. I mean, it was quite the day at the office.
Did that delay your day?
Yeah, it pretty well shot my day. It it went from hoping to be into Warren, 7, maybe 8 a.m. to, I want to say I rolled into the mine at about 4:30 p.m.
And we encounter that pretty regularly. So supply chain is a huge piece, too. People, well, how come it took so long to build a building? Really? People have no idea what it took. When we look at, we had, what was it, 380 4,000-pound concrete blocks.
Yep, 4,400-pound ecology blocks. What people glance over because it gets buried, you physically really don't see it on the surface. And a lot of job sites, you call up a concrete contractor and they come and form up your foundation, and the concrete trucks show up and pour it, and you're good. It's a completely different world in Warren, Idaho, and having to.
Can we drive a concrete truck up the road to Warren?
No.
To the mine?
No.
Some days you can't drive a pickup up to the mine. I mean,
Correct.
that's just the reality, and people don't understand it. And so, when people were like, well, what's taking so long? So the original plan, and I had actually worked with a contractor that we were going to fly those blocks in. Takes 2 days, literally, to fly those blocks in. Well, then the only bird in the area that can move that kind of weight got called off on a fire. So it's roughly 1.5 miles up what we call the road from hell. It's 26% grade. It's ruddy. It's got water bars. It's a challenge. And instead of saying we can't build this building, and this is where I think your guys' accomplishments are unbelievable in what you guys do, but we problem solved it. And so those blocks went up that road 2 at a time. So you got 8,000 pounds, little over 8,000 pounds on a telehandler. And if anybody understands construction, a telehandler is not the most comfortable piece of equipment to drive on a rough, bouncy, steep road with 8,000 pounds hanging to the front. But we got it done. We moved every block up that mountain.
Yep.
And the building is done. I mean, from grading to done this summer is enormous. And I think people they're so used to seeing construction sites, they don't understand that. And, we believed, based on commitments we had from contractors, our supply chain commitments, that includes equipment and things like that. We thought we would be done at the end of November, right, Matt? I mean,
yeah.
Fair. That's what we told Sean. We will have this building done by this day. Well, one of our vendors for significant pieces of equipment, we're 30 plus days late on delivering the equipment.
And those delays, they don't just push things back 30 days. When we have to then reschedule other vendors like electricians and the likes, it does significantly delay things. And also it goes from, okay, we're getting these in mild weather and All we got to do is just unload them and bring them up to the mine. It goes from that to, okay, now we're doing this in the snow. We've got to have, a dozer with ice cleats welded to it and put a loader behind it to help it get up the mountain. And it amplifies your man hours for the same project tenfold. And it can be it's very frustrating on the ground, and I'm sure it's incredibly frustrating from the company side of things too, seeing just the delays and everything. But yeah, it's very unfortunate, but there was some delays that were out of our hands that really kind of kicked our butt.
Well, and the thing is too, I want people to understand too, is we don't quit. We're committed. And I think it's kind of unique, and I've heard it before, well, you guys should bring in bigger companies or stuff like that, and I always say a bigger company would ruin this. They would do it in a way that's not going to happen, because your team, including Steve and yourself, most geologists say, I'm not doing that. That's nothing to do with geology. You guys do everything. And we don't have this massive team. I mean, it's true. I mean, Steve, we were up there doing water lines in the freezing cold. How many geologists do that? It's because you guys are committed. And are we up there, and you guys are up there, I used to be up there all the time, but now I'm working on grants and other things like that. My time has shifted a little bit, but you guys are up there day in and day out, and it's not easy conditions, and it's cold, it's wet, it's muddy, it's hot, mosquitoes, everything that's involved. Are you there just for the fun of it?
No.
And the other tough side too is there are times when it would be great to just bring in a few more people and get things, just hammer out some stuff, but the housing capability in Warren is very limited. We utilize local talent whenever we can just to save on housing. But yeah, there's so many aspects of Warren that make it incredibly difficult to work in.
Well, and I think one of the commitments I had, and Sean has supported that commitment, and our board has supported that commitment, is we've really tried to be transparent, and we share information a lot more than most companies do. I mean, way more than most mining companies do. And we do that because we want people to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it and those kinds of things. And one of the risks, and I'm guilty of it, and I take full responsibility for it, is when we make a statement, we anticipate we're going to be in revenue by this date. It's based on science. It's based on our best knowledge, our best experience of other experts, and we base it on facts that we have. And I wish I would have used the practice that I use in homicide investigations, is I don't draw a conclusion of who committed the homicide, until it's absolutely clear. And people take, when we say we think we're going to be in revenue, people take that as gospel, or they say, and if it doesn't happen, Sean gets accused of lying, or I'll get accused of lying, which in my profession really riles me up a tad bit. And I know it does for Sean too, because that's not who we are. And same thing with you guys. I mean, this isn't made up stuff. You guys could be working in a lot warmer places and a lot better conditions, and we grind this stuff out. But that's the whole point of why we're talking today, is we want people to understand I have full confidence in where Sidney's going to go. There's gold here. Would you agree?
Oh yeah,
100%.
yeah.
Is there silver here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
PGMs?
Yep. There
rare
is.
earths.
Yep.
We have all kinds of lab results that show this.
Yeah.
This isn't make believe. It's incredibly difficult. But
The
what
the orogenesis of this and the metallurgy is just a mind twist trying to solve that. I mean, this is not just a straightforward narrow vein
No, I mean,
hydrothermally altered gold system. It's
this is
way more complex than that.
yeah, this is a sort of, deposit. Most companies would spend many, many years, if not decades working on metallurgy.
Right.
I mean, there's probably similar metallurgical breakthroughs that you can look at in the past that were 10, 15, 20 years, if not longer, in the making, that stem from these sort of issues of people discovering, okay, there's valuable minerals here, and then the next question is, how do we get that to a sellable product?
Well, I think that's important for people to understand. And what I think is incredibly important is the discoveries that Steve and Guy have made working in a lab that, hey, it's a lab, but it's not like Florin's lab or Hazen's lab, which have entire teams. Because you guys have made incredible discoveries in how the gold is encapsulated, what some of the processes are, how the processes go, everything from grind studies to, different leach processes, because we've been able to leach gold and silver, correct me if I'm wrong, at small scale.
Absolutely.
Does it work when you try and ramp it up? It does in ways.
The leaching, the wet chemistry side of this is its whole different animal. I mean, that's a whole different animal going on here, because you have 2 or 3 that go into solution and you have 4 or 5 that don't. So you have three different metals, say 4, like 1 precious and 3 rare earths. They'll all go into solution at once. And then you have to try to figure out how to drop those out as a solid. It's very, very complex. There's a lot of stoichiometry, a lot of chemistry that you have to understand to be able to do that.
There's no guidebook.
There's no guidebook. I mean, there's not okay, here's the recipe. That isn't how it works. You have to balance everything out and figure out what's going to combine with what, or what's potentially going to combine with what. Okay, let's try to drop the gold and keep indium and yttrium in solution. You see the complexities here? I mean, it's a tough one.
Well, and people too, one of the things people don't understand too, and I want to be clear on, is, so when you talk about free gold, what have we been seeing free gold recovery rates at recently?
20%.
And that's equating to what, 1-2 grams, sometimes better.
Yeah.
Per ton?
Yeah.
Okay.
But 80% of the gold is it's either single refractory or double.
Yeah.
Depending
And what
on,
does that mean, Steve? Can you explain that?
well, a single refractory is 1 treatment, right? A double refractory requires 2. So you might have to roast some of it, then leach it. Some of it will free up with a single leach.
Yeah.
But 80% of this gold is tied up. It's encapsulated with something. I'm finding it all over. I mean, we're running some magnetics here, and there's gold in all the magnetics. Now the non-magnetic, sometimes it spikes and sometimes it drops completely out.
Right. But one of the things we do know about Warren, because we did some tests, we call it roadbed material. I mean, we got a lot of it was gold that had come down from a particular what we were driving towards a pocket, and that's why we stopped working on the stockpiles and went back to the vein system in Lucky Bend, and we were confident we got this baby figured out. And so we drive down based on testing that we were recovering coarse gold. And people say, well, why didn't you sell all this coarse gold? These are small samples that we're doing. I mean, these are a couple 100 pounds that we're running. And,
right.
Yeah, because we're not going to run 50 tons to test something we're going to drive towards. So we drive down, we go underneath what we believed was a stope. We know it was a stope because it was stoped out. You can climb in it. We know that occurred. And then we thought we would hit the gold, but when we got down at depth, the vein shifted, correct?
Yeah, it's structurally, it's offset all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's not straightforward.
And it was our opinion at that time when we started driving in that, okay, they mine this stope. We'll get some free gold recovery going. We'll get in a little bit of revenue. We're going to understand the metallurgy because all this is testing. We're in the exploration and development phase, correct?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And our free mill gold, our recovery is picking up a bunch. I mean, it's significantly picking up.
And why is that? What are we doing right now? Why don't you guys take a minute and just explain what we're doing now?
We are driving a ramp down further to the east, which is more towards the heart of the district from where we are at, along the vein. And that is the target is to get underneath what is the most heavily mined area of the Lucky Bend, where they had their larger stopes, the infamous piggy bank wins that the old timers were working on, and based on the smelter sheets that they had, I don't have it in front of me, but I want to say they were pulling something like 6 to 10 ounces a day out of the mine.
Correct. Yeah, those are correct.
In the summer.
Yeah.
And that's with rudimentary hand steels, pushing ore carts by hand. So we know that there is some very, very good material back there, and the objective is drive the drift to underneath where the old timers were mining. We want to be directly underneath it. Our goal is to have about a 20-foot, 30-foot pillar above us to just make sure we don't have any issues breaking into the historic workings. And then hopefully when we locate, higher grade pockets, we will then diamond drill below us and put together kind of a little bit of a blocked out resource, and hopefully, provide some reassurance, I guess you could say, to people, and be able to say, here's your core, here's the free milling gold. But this is only just a part of the district. This is not, this isn't everything. This is just your relatively easy to recover material.
Right.
Right.
Our last recovery out on the desk in the lab right now is totally saturated. So
With higher grade.
Yeah, the process totally saturated the recovery. So it's we're ready to drop the gold out of that right now.
And
I've never seen that since I've been here.
Yeah, and it's been, and again, this comes down to, our transparency and our efforts to be transparent. And we have lots of assays and we have all these things to show what we made these decisions on. And, it's not to get people excited. We've been trying to be transparent, and it is excited. And I'll tell you, we've had some gut punches and some pretty difficult conversations, but all of us are confident. I know I'm confident that we will get this figured out. Sidney Resources will go from a exploration and development company into a production company. How do you guys feel about that?
That's the objective. That's the goal.
Yep, absolutely. Our current plan,
Is good.
I'm feeling very, very confident. All our indications currently is that the further east on the vein we go, which is more towards the center of the Warren district, the grades pick up, and we are going to significant ways east.
We've proven that already.
Yeah.
The further east,
because what lies to the east? What's on the same vein to the east?
The rescue mine is to the east.
Rescue, the Little Giant, all of
Little
them.
Giant, the Unity, the big producers.
Yeah.
And we know from the workings, one of the things we know from the workings is because Goldstone, which was a company that wanted to buy this property, they're out of Canada. They did a lot of drill work and they did a lot of trench work and sampling on the area we're moving into. And that's part of why we're driving into this. And they showed a consistent 2.24 ounces per ton, consistent in the vein, not just in pockets. And we know from past smelter sheets and stuff like that, and we know from structures on the surface, and we know from substructure, deep structures that were mined, because I've been in them. They're large. I mean, there's one you could park a semi truck in. That's how big the stope is. I mean, I took video of it. It's enormous. And that was all material they mined out. And there's 5 of those that we know of from surface where they came up to the surface, because they mined those clear up towards the surface, which is several hundred feet from where the tunnel is. That's a lot of ore. That's a lot of material they moved. And they didn't do it for the health, but we know from the records, and that's why we're doing that. And the commitment that you guys show is huge. It's tough. It's tough with what you do, but you made huge commitments. I mean, people don't understand the commitments you make and the resources you're committing to this area and the things that you've done. I mean, normally companies get mobilization money, right?
Right.
Okay. So what commitment did you make because you're so confident in what we're doing?
We're not charging a mobilization for our underground mining work until we produce gold.
That's a pretty big commitment. People don't understand that. And that's hundreds of thousands of dollars that you're saying, I'm hanging on to this because we're so confident in this. And that's what we want people to understand. But I'll tell you, I know one thing that I'm not doing anymore because it puts Sean in a tough spot. As our commitment is to transparent. When people say, when are you going to produce gold? When we do is my answer. I'm not going to make projections on revenue anymore. All I'm going to share is what we're doing. And from my perspective, that was a mistake. It's not an intentional thing, but we all learn and we keep moving forward. But we're confident in what this is and in the path forward. And we've been very strategic about what we do. It's why Sidney Resources went from leasing 53 acres to owning 208 acres and now having a claim size of 12,000 acres. That's not easy. I mean, I can't believe the team that came in accomplished what they did in staking 371 claims in the most god-awful conditions that you can have, because people don't understand. There was a fire here in 2007, and all of that timber is laid down, and it's steep, and you're talking elevations from 7,000 feet to 9,000 feet in the snow and the muck and the rain. And when you stake claims, you have to carry in 4x4 posts and stake every corner. Okay. We just accomplished that. The team we just had accomplished that.
It's a monumental,
Yeah, super impressive.
big time impressive. I didn't think they could do it.
Very.
I thought they were crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, when we came up with it and the commitment, you know, Steve Krause and his team, I mean, it's unbelievable what they accomplished in the amount of time that they did. And they're not doing it. Oh, people say, well, they got paid to do it. They could get paid to do the same thing in flat ground in Nevada. But they're committed. And I think that shows the commitment all of us have, is we endure some really crappy conditions. You know, and Steve, one of the things, you know, I've heard you say more than once, have you ever worked on any dogs in the mining world?
Oh, yeah, it's not fun. You don't, this isn't a dog. This is a good system.
Yeah.
It's just very complex. It's,
and are any of us walking away?
What's that?
Are any of us walking away?
No, if I thought this was a dog, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
And I think it's important for people to understand that, and people that, you know, are you know, giving Sean a bad time. We gave Sean the estimates. I did, you know, I went to this team and what do we think? And I agreed 100%. Granted, you know, I have a minor in geology, but I don't have a mining background, but, you know, I've learned a few things in the last 17 years. And I don't make predictions lightly, you know, because they affect me. I mean, I've got 17 years invested in this project. When I could be doing a lot of different things that, you know, for me are huge. But I got into this way back when, because I don't know, I'm kind of a softie, and I enjoy helping people. And when they came to me and said, if you won't get involved in this, there's 1,700 plus mom and pop shareholders that are going to lose everything. And that got to me, you know. Granted, my mom was one of them, and it wasn't my cup of tea. It wasn't what I did, but I love a challenge. You know, this is a challenge. It's turned out to be a bigger challenge than I ever anticipated, but I equate it to difficult homicides. I say that all the time. You know, and in my career, I worked a homicide case at every jurisdiction, every federal agency, every federal prosecutor. Well, there's no body, you're never going to get a conviction. We got a conviction. We got a first-degree murder conviction and no body homicide. I use those same techniques and same research pieces and same attitude at solving this mystery. And just like in that case, it was solved not because of me, it was solved because it had an incredible team. And that's what I want people to understand. When I think of Western Frontier and the team, I have the same dedicated, intelligent team here that I did in that case. And that's why I'm here. I'm sticking this baby out. I'm seeing this through. And you guys have been the same way. And yeah, have we missed targets? Hell yeah, we missed targets. Well, we're going to adjust the information that we put out because there's uncertainties. We've learned it's not a typical system here. Would you guys agree with that?
100%. Yeah. If it was straightforward and easy, it would
probably would have been gone a long time ago.
Yeah, it'd be gone a long time ago. Because
Right.
you look at, you know, one of the things I think about too, and we'll kind of wrap up because I know you guys got a ton of stuff to do. And again, I thank you guys for what you're doing out there. I know it sucks. I know, I mean, we were discussing, do we start rounding up 2 of every animal and building an ark with the weather conditions that we have in Warren right now? It's just difficult. But, you know, to anybody out there that has been disappointed or, you know, thinks we're making stuff up, you know, I apologize that we've made predictions with the utmost confidence to Sean that have gone out to the world. But what I do know is all of the discoveries we have just increased the value of this deposit, and they've increased the value of the company to the shareholders. And without a doubt, I know we're going to figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, we're recovering more gold now than we ever have since we started,
Right.
and it's picking up as we're going on. So I see the advancements every day,
which in itself, you know, might not necessarily be economical, but it is showing that
it's
as we go further east on this vein,
it's getting pretty damned encouraging.
The grade is increasing
100%
consistently.
Yeah.
And that's what people, you know, people hear, oh my God, if you got gold, you know, why aren't you selling it? Okay, these are, you know, we're doing tests to confirm the passes moving forward. So yeah, there's gold in the lab, you know, I mean, there's these things in the lab, but it's again, not as easy as it is, as people think it is. People, I hear it all the time. Well, I saw it on Gold Rush. I hate to tell you, this isn't Gold Rush. Okay. It's not Gold Rush. That's not how mining works.
No.
You open up a can of regulatory worms too when you start selling product.
It is, you know, and there's a big piece to this.
The production.
You know, and part of what we want people to understand too, because Matt, we have all this. We're a exploration and development company that is driving to become a production company, and everything we do is when we turn on that switch, we change regulatory components to this, and we're preparing for that. Those are things that we do all the time, and it makes it a bigger challenge to what we're doing in this realm. But it's things that we know. You know, I hear it all the time. Well, did you think about, you know, berms on the road? Yes, we've thought about berms on the road, and we've thought about chalking vehicles, and we've thought about all those different things that come into play, you know. And we're preparing for that because it's important, and we're working with potential offtake agreements. It just takes time, and a lot of it takes time because these companies take time to respond or to give us the details. You know, this is an enormous piece. And you know, one last piece I really wanted to touch on, and then Steve, I'll let you know if you want to talk anything more about the metallurgy. I think it's awesome, but I hear all the time, why don't you just build a bigger mill? There's 3 things, and correct me if I'm wrong, that are really important to running a mill in Warren, Idaho. The first is electricity. You have to have electricity to run a mill. And there is no power source within 50 miles of Warren, Idaho. So people say, well, build a 400-ton mill a day. I've heard mining people, big mining companies tell me that, just build a 400-ton mill a day. I did the calculations on diesel to run a 400-ton mill a day. And to do that in lovely Warren, Idaho, I would have to build the facilities to store 235,000 gallons of diesel. Okay. Right. Not to mention, diesel comes into Warren 1 truck at a time. They can haul 3,000 gallons. So imagine the traffic on the lovely Warren Wagon Road that just about rips the mirrors off your pickup because of the potholes to move 235,000 gallons.
That's a lot of storage.
Well, and then
big tank.
You got to take it from the trucks up the mountain.
Up the mountain. So
1,000 gallons at a time. There's a lot of.
That's just one of the pieces.
Yeah.
You know, so, and then you look at tail storage, 400 tons a day creates an enormous tailing storage issue. You have to have a lot of ground to store tails. That's just another component. Those are things we have to think about and look at, and then you have to be able to get the equipment. 400 ton a mill a day, that equipment's kind of big. It's a little bigger than a shoebox, and it weighs a fair amount. And I mean, we had locals literally wanting to come out and watch just when these guys moved. What were they, 10,000 gallon water tanks and fuel storage tanks up the mountain? It was like we could have gotten into revenue just selling tickets for people to watch that. Everybody, there's no way those tanks are going up that hill. No way. Everybody's not happening. No. Guess what? They're up there.
Yeah.
And who got him up there? It wasn't Santa. He didn't bring in his sleigh and fly him up there. Okay. It was because we problem solved. These guys problem solve. It's an enormous accomplishment to do what we did in the amount of time that we did. And I just, I'm singing their praises because I'm proud of hell of these guys. And I know what they live through and I know what they do with. And the shareholders need to understand that. So to all of you that have been disappointed because we didn't hit revenue targets, I'm sorry. I truly am. I was disappointed too. There are a lot of sleepless nights. And I really feel bad because Sean's the one that takes all the heat. You want to be pissed off at me. Okay. But I put 17 years into this project. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and so have these guys. We will get there. That I'm confident of. Steve, do you want to add, man, anything on the metallurgy or?
We gain every day on that. Every day we work on it, we learn a little bit more. It's just incredibly complicated, and that equates to it's slow too,
Yeah.
And I'm seeing our recoveries are really improving. They are. The rock that we're milling right now out of that vein is the best rock I've seen since I've been here. So
I mean, and we understand the district.
I expect to we're going to get better, and I think we're on the right track.
Perfect.
I mean, if I didn't think so, I don't think any of us would be here, for God's sakes.
Well, I know I wouldn't be here.
No.
I got other things I could be doing. Well, I appreciate you guys' time this morning. I really do. Hey, we're the ones that supply the information to Sean, and we've done it in good faith, and we've done it based on science. It's just things happen and things change that are difficult. And, we get pretty damn disappointed. I mean, we do, because we understand that people, invest money and they trust us, and we don't take that lightly. Mining's expensive, and we're a pre-revenue company. And, there's other companies out there that spend 100 times more than we've spent. And they're nowhere near as close as we are, nor have they grown in the size that we've grown. And, as we grow, people understand when we built a building and we moved in new equipment and we're building all that process, we're not adding a lot of people. We don't expand. We just do things that we have to do. It wasn't my dream to drive a telehandler with concrete blocks up a mountain from hell. That's not something when I was a kid I said, ooh, I want to do that. I didn't really want to. There were mornings I would wake up almost, I don't think I can do another 10 hours or 15 hours of this. And I know John certainly wasn't doing cartwheels. Woo! You know?
Yeah, that's the thing. People glance over it on a spreadsheet. Oh, you got to move 300 blocks up a mountain. They don't understand the, a good day you get 20. And
yeah, in a good day. And yeah, people don't understand. People understand we'll just take them up there. Okay, there's 380 blocks. It took me an hour and 17 minutes because I averaged it and I was timing my butt for one trip.
Mm-hmm.
So 380 blocks divided by 2. Okay. And the thing that would just break your back literally is you get it moved, you get a batch moved up, and then another semi would show up. Hell, but we believe in this project and we're not going anywhere. It's pretty amazing what occurs. And again, we missed the mark on it with the utmost confidence, but the one thing we will hit is we'll get this figured out. I have no doubt. Anything you guys want to add?
I agree. I mean, I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, I think our current operational plan is rock solid, and yeah, like Steve said, we make progress every day.
Every day. Yep.
Because I know we got gold. It's just mixed in with a whole lot of other stuff. So
I mean,
we don't. I know I'm laughing, and it's just because I'm trying really hard not to cry sometimes because I feel really bad, and I truly do, because this impacts me. This impacts. I've got money invested in this project, not just money. I've got time. You know,
a significant portion of your life.
17 years, 18 years now. We're actually working on 19 years. And people don't understand when they hear that. People don't understand too that, and Sean gets a little uncomfortable sometimes too when I give him as much credit as he deserves. But for those first years, many years, because Sean didn't really get involved with Sidney until 2021, we were a hole in the mountain with a dream. Because, I came into a mess. Sidney was a mess. Greg Leonard got involved and Sue Moss got involved, but they were in Wisconsin. It's not like they could help me a lot, but we fixed a lot of things and we worked out a lot of different problems and challenges. But until 2021, we were a hole in the wall. There was a hole that was caved in. We had done some, work and some rehab work with the limited money that we had. And then Sean got involved. And that's when we became a real company, because we had the resources and the coordination and the vision of moving this thing forward. And, people say, well, if Dan hadn't been involved or whatever, my being involved is just like having a laborer, involved. Sean is really the architect to be able to have the resources and coordinate and keep us motivated and, push on us and all those kinds of things. So he's been critical. And I get super defensive and I get really irritated when people give him flack or call him a liar or different things like that. It really pisses me off, quite frankly, because I know how dedicated he is and I know the sacrifices he's made to turn this around for the shareholders. And he believes in us, and we know that. And that means a lot to us. And we know the vast majority of shareholders believe in us too, and we appreciate it. But, I can't say enough thank you for you guys. I mean, what are y'all doing for Christmas?
I'll be up in Warren.
Around. It's not a lot of fun. And these guys work rain and shine. you know, like I say, literally we should be rounding up animals 2x2 and building an ark with the way the weather's been. And it's muddy. People think, oh, well, you don't have snow. I would take snow and ice any day of the week over the muck that we're in now. The muck sucks. It's difficult. It's a challenge. You know, so, well, thanks guys. Anything you want to add?
No, just
Nah, not really. I mean,
our current operational path. I mean, I've never felt better about it, and things are definitely. I mean, yeah, like Steve said, every day improvement.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Be safe, and appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys later.
you
Take
bet.
care.
Yeah.